When we talk about the United States, the first things that come to mind are skyscrapers, opportunity, freedom, and success. It is a country that sells itself to the world as the land of dreams. But beyond the glamorous images of Hollywood, the bustling streets of Manhattan, and the shining tech towers of San Francisco lies another America, one that is hidden in plain sight. It is the America of tent cities, where thousands live under tarps and cardboard. It is the America of desperation, where prostitution becomes the last resort for survival. Homelessness and prostitution are not separate problems. They are connected struggles born out of poverty, inequality, and the failures of systems that were supposed to protect people. Both tell the story of a society where too many are forgotten and forced into lives of survival rather than dignity. Homelessness in America has become one of the most urgent crises of our time. On any given night, more than 500,000 people in the United States have no home. Nearly half of them live unsheltered, on sidewalks, in parks, in cars, or under bridges. Cities like Los Angeles, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, New York, and Washington, D.C. have become ground zero for this crisis. Walk through certain streets in Los Angeles, and you will find blocks lined with tents, entire communities made up of people who have nowhere else to go. In San Francisco, homelessness has become impossible to ignore, as sidewalks and subway entrances are filled with sleeping bags and makeshift shelters. Even in smaller towns and suburban areas, homelessness has quietly spread, often hidden in wooded areas, parking lots, or abandoned buildings. Life on the streets is unforgiving. For those living in tents, every day is about survival. Heat waves, freezing winters, rainstorms, and hurricanes. All of them are experienced without the protection of a stable home. Without access to showers, bathrooms, or kitchens, basic hygiene becomes a daily struggle. Illness spreads quickly in encampments, and without health care, small infections can turn deadly. Safety is another constant fear. Theft, harassment, and violence are daily threats. Women in particular face risks of sexual assault. Families who become homeless often face separation, as shelters sometimes split men from women and children, breaking families apart. Veterans, many of whom served their country, find themselves left behind, sleeping under bridges with no support system. This is the hidden America, millions pushed into invisibility. The roots of this crisis are deep. Rent has skyrocketed in many cities, far outpacing wages. A person working a minimum wage job often cannot afford even a small apartment. One missed paycheck or one medical emergency can push a family onto the streets. Affordable housing is scarce, with long waiting lists and limited availability. Mental illness and addiction also play major roles. Without accessible treatment, many spiral into homelessness, where the conditions only worsen their struggles. Domestic violence is another factor. Many women and children flee abusive homes, only to find themselves with nowhere safe to go. These are not isolated stories. They are patterns, repeated again and again across the nation. And here, prostitution becomes part of the picture. When someone has no home, no job, and no safety net, desperation takes over. For many, especially women and LGBTQ youth, prostitution becomes a means of survival. It is not a glamorous choice. It is not about luxury or desire. It is about eating for the day, finding a place to sleep, or numbing the pain with drugs. This is known as survival sex, trading one's body not for wealth, but for basic needs. Homeless women may exchange sex for a motel room to stay safe for one night. Youth may engage in prostitution for food or clothing. Some trade sex for drugs, trapped in cycles of addiction and exploitation. The link between homelessness and prostitution is strongest among youth. Studies show that homeless teenagers are significantly more likely to engage in survival sex than their peers. LGBTQ youth are especially vulnerable. Many are kicked out of their homes after coming out, leaving them with no family support. Once on the streets, survival sex becomes one of the few options available. This leaves them open to violence, abuse, and exploitation by traffickers. Instead of being protected, they are criminalized. Police arrest them for prostitution, branding them with criminal records that make it even harder to find stable housing or employment. Addiction often deepens this cycle. On the streets, drugs become both a coping mechanism and a form of control. Many use substances to escape trauma, cold nights, and hunger. Pimps and traffickers exploit this, keeping people addicted and dependent. Prostitution becomes a way to pay for drugs, and drugs keep people trapped in prostitution. For many, there is no way out without intervention. The justice system's response has largely failed. Cities often treat homelessness and prostitution as crimes to be eliminated rather than human crises to be solved. Police sweeps destroy homeless encampments, throwing away personal belongings and scattering people, only for them to set up elsewhere. Prostitutes are arrested, fined, or jailed, but the underlying reasons for their situation remain. A homeless woman arrested for prostitution now carries a record that makes finding work even harder. A homeless man cited for sleeping on the sidewalk faces fines he cannot pay. Instead of breaking the cycle, these policies tighten it. The stigma makes everything worse. Homeless people are often seen as lazy or dangerous, when in reality, most are victims of rising costs, family breakdown, or illness. Prostitutes are judged as immoral, when many are simply trying to survive. Society prefers to look away, to walk past tents on the sidewalk, or to drive past women standing on corners at night. The sight has become normalized, part of the city landscape, but it should never be normal for human beings to live like this in one of the wealthiest nations on earth. Families also fall into this hidden cycle. Imagine a single mother with 2 children, evicted because she cannot keep up with rent. Shelters are full, so she sleeps in her car. She takes odd jobs, but the money is never enough. Faced with hunger and desperation, prostitution might seem like the only option left to provide for her children. This is not fiction. It is reality for many. The choices are not between good and bad, but between survival and despair. The toll is not only physical, but psychological. Living in constant insecurity breeds depression, anxiety, and hopelessness. Children who grow up in homeless families often suffer trauma that affects them for life. Those forced into prostitution carry scars of exploitation, abuse, and shame. Many feel invisible, abandoned by society. Drugs and alcohol often become the only escape, but they only deepen the suffering. Yet despite the despair, there are solutions. Housing First programs have proven that providing stable shelter first, before requiring sobriety or employment, gives people the foundation they need to rebuild their lives. Affordable housing development and rent control can prevent families from becoming homeless in the first place. Access to mental health care, addiction treatment, and job training can help people recover and reintegrate. For prostitution, harm reduction and decriminalization are key. Treating sex workers as human beings deserving of health care, safety, and support rather than as criminals opens doors to real change. Programs that offer safe housing, counseling, and job training give people alternatives to survival sex. But none of this can happen without compassion. The first step is seeing these people as human beings. Behind every tent is a person with a story. Behind every act of prostitution is a person trying to survive. They are not failures. They are not criminals. They are citizens, neighbors, and human beings who deserve dignity. America's strength is not measured by the size of its economy or the height of its buildings, but by how it treats its most vulnerable. Homelessness and prostitution reveal the cracks in the promise of opportunity. They show us what happens when people are left behind. Solving these crises will take more than temporary fixes. It will take affordable housing, health care, fair wages, and compassion-driven policies. Most of all, it will take the will to care. Until that happens, tents will remain on sidewalks, and prostitution will remain a tool of survival. The question is whether America will continue to look away, or whether it will finally decide that every human being, no matter how poor or desperate, deserves shelter, safety, and dignity.